We were betrothed in youth. I stood by Xie Zhao through assassination attempts and quelled rebellions. Yet when my poison took hold, he gave the sole antidote to Qingmei. I plunged from the cliff in bitter resentment, only to awaken with all past memories erased. When I returned to the capital, I was the most favored wife of the rebel leader. Qingmei trembled in Xie Zhao's embrace as I pushed a wine cup toward them, poisoned wine in the left hand, clear water in the right. Only one may live. My smile remained serene. You choose. Piercing agony spread through my organs. My vision blurred until I could barely see. I vaguely remembered waiting for Xie Zhao to rescue me. Chaos engulfed the land as rebel forces rose everywhere. When Xie Zhao suppressed the rebellion, Song Yin and I were captured by the rebels. With no way out, we became hostages. The rebels hailed Xie Zhao as their leader. Upon hearing of my capture, he remained composed until he learned Song Yin had been taken too. Only then did he lose his composure, crushing his wine cup in his fist. Song Yin. She was the childhood sweetheart he had once protected. Amidst the atmosphere of constant suspicion, the rebels forced poison upon Song Yin and me. Driven to the edge of a cliff with no retreat, the rebel leader laughed mockingly. Both ladies have swallowed deadly poison, yet only one antidote remains. He spat out the words with contempt. You choose. After slaughtering every rebel, Xie Zhao clutched the antidote, his face ashen, knuckles cracking from the pressure. I swallowed the metallic taste in my throat and grabbed Xie Zhao's robe. My lord, I cannot die. I cannot die yet. My father and brother served Xie Zhao for years, dying to save him. When I learned of their deaths, I wept until I fainted. My heart torn apart. Their heads were displayed high upon the city walls. Their bodies, wrapped in horsehide, were buried hastily amidst the chaos of war. I could only manage to erect a simple grave mound for them. The seventh-day memorial approaches. Yet I have not honored them. I must return alive. I took the poison half a moment before Song Yin. Now it rages within me, causing unbearable pain and blood-soaked vomit. The physician has arrived. If he leaves the antidote behind, perhaps we both might be saved. Xie Zhao stood silently beside me, his jaw the only feature visible. This man who once filled my heart and eyes with trust now calmly drew the hem of his robe from my grasp. His gaze held suppressed emotion and trembling pain. He murmured softly, Qin, I will personally beg forgiveness at the graves of your father and brothers. He released my hand. Song Yin's father and brothers had arrived. Embracing her tenderly, the antidote was administered safely, and she wept in their arms, voicing her fear and grievances. Such was the scene of a moon surrounded by stars. Physicians circled around me, shaking their heads and sighing that the poison had taken deep hold. Had treatment come but half a moment sooner, perhaps I might have been saved. Yet through the blur of blood, I could only watch Xie Zhao walk away step by step, never once looking back. In that moment, the pain in my body felt nothing compared to the agony in my heart. It truly hurt so much. If my father and brothers were still here, would Xie Zhao have let me suffer this humiliation today? I don't know, but I no longer have a father or brothers. I smiled and shook my head, only to find my hands wet with tears. From our youth, Xie Zhao and I weathered assassination attempts and quelled rebellions together. My father and brothers died fighting for his claim to the throne. Now, finally, it was my turn. My turn to step aside, to make way for his childhood sweetheart. Blood spilled from my mouth, staining my robe crimson. Only now did reality strike me with brutal clarity. I called out Xie Zhao's name. The wind carried my voice far, and I heard my own tone remain calm. Xie Zhao, if you truly desire Song Yin, you may divorce me. Why must you take my life in this manner? Xie Zhao froze. My vision was already blurring, but I could still make out his lips trembling faintly. The truth no longer mattered. Ever since news of my father and brother's deaths reached me, throughout the army, all knew Xie Zhao had a devoted wife who stood by him through hardship. Yet no one understood the agony I endured. He and Song Yin had been childhood sweethearts until the Xie family fell from grace. Exiled to the frontier, the Song family abandoned him. Yet as the imperial house crumbled and chaos engulfed the land, Xie Zhao raised his banner. Stationed at Qin Pass, he actively sought marriage. My father and brothers then gave me to Xie Zhao. My father and brothers said Xie Zhao was a formidable leader, cold, resolute, and steadfast. In this chaotic age, he could protect me, but my life was far from easy. While other wives shared meals with their husbands in harmony, I arranged for refugees to be settled for Xie Zhao, while other wives confided their grievances to their fathers and brothers. I spent sleepless nights devising plans to secure provisions for Xie Zhao's troops. The night I learned of my father and brother's deaths, Song Yin stormed into my tent. She sneered as she smashed the jade pendant they had left me. "Qin Qin," she sneered. "You've simply been overly fortunate. Xie Zhao married me only because my name resembled hers. Now that my family is gone, she will inevitably claim the position of primary wife. Xie Zhao, tell me, what must that agony feel like? Piercing to the very marrow." Whether Xie Zhao truly sought Song Yin or merely the Song family's military power, I no longer cared. But I refused to accept it. I refused to be a stepping stone for him and Song Yin, a mere ladder for his ambitions to dominate the Central Plains. I refused to be remembered in history while my father and brothers were dismissed as pitiful footnotes. To raise an army and become the tyrant of the realm, he needs nothing more than a good reputation. I bowed my head, watching the blood droplets spread across the ground, then raised my hand to wipe the trace of blood from my lips. "Xie Zhao, should you ever marry Song Yin, you will cement your name as the one who cruelly murdered his first wife. Public opinion is a formidable force. They say Xie Zhao possesses the bearing of an emperor, the aura of a heavenly sovereign, and has gained considerable renown among the common folk. This is how he gradually rose to become a regional warlord. But abandoning his wife of hardship, murdering his lawful spouse, such a treacherous, faithless, cold-hearted man, would the people truly choose to follow him?" Xie Zhao paled at these words, seeing me brush aside the physician and step back. His eyes flickered with terror. He stumbled forward, recklessly lunging toward me, but I merely smiled, turned, and stepped onto the cliff's edge. With a leap I left him not even a corpse. I would never grant his wish. Neither of us will live well. My head aches terribly. The sound is jarring as dawn breaks. I hear maids arguing outside the window. They say, "Oh dear, that young lady has been unconscious for over half a month and still hasn't woken." I hear the third young master refuse the marriage proposal from the Wei family of Kuaiji for her sake. Could she be the third young master's mistress kept outside the estate? Is she trying to die to force him to legitimize her? So noisy. By the time my consciousness truly cleared, the clamor had vanished from the room. The third young master, the Wei family of Kuaiji, a mistress. I barely remember who I am. Only a vague memory lingers, falling from a great height, drifting in water for what felt like an eternity. I thought I was dead. Someone had betrayed me. I touched my chest. I expected to feel immense sorrow, but it wasn't there. Who betrayed me? As I stood dazed and lost in thought, I heard a faint sound. Someone lifted the curtain, clothed in snow-white robes. I faintly heard someone outside call out to him, "Third young master." Seeing me awake, he visibly startled for a moment before curving his lips into a smile, lifting his fan to shade his mouth. "You're awake." Instinctively, I clenched the shards of porcelain beneath the quilt. I'd secretly gathered them earlier, for self-defense in case of need. The third young master waited patiently for my reply. My palms tightened. Hesitating only a moment, I asked in a hoarse whisper, "Are you my husband?" The maids and servants said I was the third young master's concubine. So, was he the one who betrayed me? His fingertips paused. His jet-black hair cascaded as he leaned toward me. His dark pupils held a thoughtful gaze, yet his eyes brimmed with countless shimmering specks of light. He studied me for a long moment before suddenly smiling. "Yes, He said, "I am your husband." Yet a shard of broken porcelain pressed against his throat. Crimson droplets stained the white ceramic. My hand clenched tightly, the blood from my own cut mingling with his as it fell onto his snow-white robe. Stark and jarring. The third young master lowered his eyelids slightly. The curve of his lips remained unchanged as he asked calmly, "You intend to kill me? Why?" My wrist trembled. I had been unconscious for too long. Even such a simple action left me weak and breathless. I overheard the servants say you refused the marriage proposal from the Wei family of Kuaiji. They said I was your concubine. The third young master had never married. By declaring himself my husband, he cemented my status as his concubine. I couldn't quite grasp why I'd willingly become another man's mistress. But I must have loved him deeply. Loved him enough to seek death. Loved him enough to stay by his side without recognition. Finding sweetness in the bitterness. Falling from heights. Drifting in water. Though I recall neither past events nor what he did to me, I remember the agony, the despair, and the seething hatred that spread through my veins as my blood congealed. He betrayed me. Why did he betray me? Yet the third young master's expression held a peculiar twist. His smile faltered as he raised an eyebrow and asked, "Those people say you are my concubine." By his logic, I was without name or status, not even worthy of being called a concubine. Pain and hatred twisted together, the shards in my hand pressing closer. I tasted the metallic sweetness of blood in my throat. There's no need for mercy with a faithless man. Before he could speak again, my heart clenched. Dizziness swept over me, nearly sending me crashing to the floor. Shards of porcelain rolled from his sleeve, clattering sharply against the ground. The third young master seized my blood-stained hand with an iron grip. Leaving no room for refusal, he forced a pill between my lips, its bitter taste instantly spreading through my mouth. A clatter came from the doorway as a maid, hearing the commotion, burst in. Seeing the blood-stained white robes, her face turned pale with terror, and the basin of water she held crashed to the floor. I collapsed onto the desk, drenched in cold sweat, my eyes closing weakly. A sharp pain in my chest made breathing difficult. All I knew was that I had missed an opportunity for revenge. Yet someone took my hand. Medicine was mixed into the cloth, and he wrapped it around the wound in my palm. Layer after layer. His voice was soft. Naturally, it should be a proper marriage. How could the person I fought so hard to reclaim become known as someone else's mistress? My consciousness grew hazy, summoning every ounce of strength. I asked him, "Who exactly are you?" He paused for a moment, then replied softly, "Gu Lanting of the Gu family of Jiangzhou." His gaze was deep, as if hinting at something more. This time, don't forget. After that day, when I awoke, I found the gossiping maidservants had been dealt with by the Gu household. Yet I vaguely understood that day must have been a misunderstanding. The Gu family of Jiangzhou, a true noble lineage. They say amidst the world's raging wars and suffering masses, only Jiangzhou remains untouched. All thanks to the protection of the Gu family's third young master. Somehow, my identity had spread. Jiangzhou's people loved a good spectacle. None could resist the secrets of the great houses. Through word of mouth, I transformed from a concubine's daughter into a young lady who had been betrothed to the third young master Gu since childhood. A orphaned girl, destitute after her family's downfall, unexpectedly reunited with her childhood sweetheart, a tale of mutual affection that soon became a popular street romance. The story spread so widely that even I began to believe it. Opening the door, I found the bamboo hut empty. I had intended to seek out Gu Lanting to thank him. The physician said my heart and pulse were damaged. The poison deeply ingrained me. Survival was a miracle. I knew the world held no such abundance of coincidence or good fortune. My survival likely stemmed from the medicine Gu Lanting had fed me. Yet I could not find him. A servant pointed me in the right direction. The streets were brightly lit, bustling with revelers, all wearing masks. I heard this was a custom in Jiangzhou, a festival to honor the gods and pray for blessings. Sparks flew as the lanterns burst, scattering like shards of gold. I saw that gentleman in snow-white robes standing by the riverbank, pushing a lantern into the water. It drifted away, carried by the current. As the sparks fell, I pushed through the crowd toward Gu Lanting. Suddenly, someone seized my wrist from behind with a force that made me wince, frowning in pain. I turned to see a face hidden behind a mask. His eyes held surprise, relief, and a fleeting flash of wild joy. His voice trembled slightly. "Ayin, you're still alive." His attendant drew a dagger from his sleeve and stepped forward. I heard the man whisper, "Trouble must not be spared." Instinctively, I took a step back, turning to flee. In the distance, the river ignited with flames the Gu family's warships, somehow ablaze. Chaos erupted among the crowd. In the frantic escape, I collided with an old shoulder wound, the pain sharp. Just as someone behind me seized my wrist again, a feathered fan with a hidden blade swept aside the hand reaching for me. My ragged breath caught for a moment. Gu Lanting shielded me completely behind him. The instant he looked at the man, he laughed aloud. "Xie Zhao, why aren't you staying in your central plains? What do you think you're doing burning my Gu family's warships?" Xie Zhao's gaze toward me grew heavy. After his identity was exposed, he fell silent for a moment before removing his mask and suddenly speaking. "I have come to seek my lawful wife." Hearing this, I clenched my palms, my heart twisting with inexplicable pain. The man before me felt strangely familiar, as if someone in my memories had once promised me I would be his one and only wife for life. Gu Lanting gently unfurled my clenched palm. His fingertips, tinged with the night's chill, brushed lightly across my skin before interlocking with mine in the most natural way. As I stood transfixed, he spoke. "They say the Xie clan, to win the Song family's troops, spared no cruelty toward their own wife." He snorted, his voice dripping with undisguised contempt. "If you wish to attack Jiangzhou, just say so plainly. Why now pretend to be so deeply devoted?" Jiangzhou was ultimately Gu territory, before reinforcements arrived. Xie Zhao silently regarded me for a moment before gritting his teeth and leading his attendants in retreat. The panicked citizens, seeing the Gu forces approaching, suddenly steadied themselves as if finding their anchor. The fire on the warships was extinguished, but the grain and supplies transported from afar were largely destroyed. Gus attendants reported that Xie's forces seemed to be setting up camp on the opposite bank. I had an inexplicable premonition. The ever-peaceful Jiangzhou was about to be plunged into a storm of bloodshed. Suddenly, I understood. The silent hatred that had stirred within me since waking from amnesia towards whom it was truly directed. I did not seek confirmation from Gu Lanting, nor did I need to. To spare the Jiangzhou region, I resolved to bid him farewell. Deep into the night, soldiers debating defenses argued fiercely within Gus' residence. Xie Zhao had already spread word that his troops had encamped along the Jiangzhou shore solely because they had found traces of his wife, who had vanished after falling from a cliff months prior. They were arguing whether, to preserve peace in the Jiangzhou region, they should hand me over. When I entered the bamboo chamber, only Gu Lanting remained. He sat leaning against the eaves, gazing at the moon. Upon seeing me, he lowered his eyes slightly, his gaze silent and still, yet seeming to say everything. The jade flask for wine resting on the window frame reflected the moon's faint, luminous glow. The corner of the writing desk was piled with gold, silver, and jade artifacts, covered in dust. Yet he cared not for these treasures that the world pursued so fervently. I spoke. "Thank you for saving me, but I must go." He tilted his head slightly and asked, "Where will you go after leaving Jiangzhou?" I pondered. Truthfully, I hadn't decided. Compared to the chaos of the world, Jiangzhou was a haven. I didn't wish to return to Xie Zhao's side, to be at his mercy. But I couldn't stay here. The price of being labeled a nation's ruin was too heavy to bear. The world judged women harshly. They saw a man's willingness to overturn a kingdom for his beloved as profound devotion, yet branded a woman as the source of calamity, as if a woman adrift in turbulent times could single-handedly determine the rise and fall of an empire. But were women truly the root cause of national disaster? I refuse to be a fig leaf for others' power struggles, nor the spark that ignites war in Jiangsu. If Gu Lanting cherished the bond we've shared these past days, perhaps he'll slip me a vial of fake death potion before handing me over to Xie Zhao. If he chooses not to help, I won't blame him, for this is my own path, and I must walk it to the end. I tilted my head like Gu Lanting, gazing up at the moon high in the sky. I counted on my fingers. Langzhou, Qianzhou, Lingnan, anywhere but Jiangsu. The air grew suddenly still, broken only by the rustling of cicadas in the treetops. After a long moment, just as I thought Gu Lanting would remain silent, he leapt down from the eaves, lowering his eyelids slightly. He spoke abruptly. Qin, do you think I seem too much like a good man? I looked at him in confusion. Gu Lanting raised an eyebrow. Whether you're in Jiangsu or not, even if you're dead now, Jiangsu will still have Li Qin, to attack Jiangsu. Xie Zhao has no shortage of excuses. Some crave power yet shame themselves for revealing their ambitions. They ignite wars while fearing the harsh judgment of history books centuries later. So they shift the blame onto women. He snorted derisively, his tone mocking. His desire to have it both ways is utterly laughable. Gu Lanting handed me the jade flask. The clear liquor reflected my face in the moonlight. I lowered my eyes slightly, took a small sip, and disturbed the seemingly calm surface. Bitter, spicy, then the fragrance of gardenias surged up. This was gardenia wine. Drinking too hastily, I choked unexpectedly. Gu Lanting added, Jiangsu, you may stay as long as you wish. His tone shifted as he continued. Besides, I've never been some living bodhisattva saving all sentient beings. A mere featherlight. Think you won't dismiss me so easily. Gu Lanting watched me cough from the wine with amusement, taking the jade bottle while offering me a handkerchief. Under my gaze, his lips pressed against the bottle's moist rim, draining the remaining liquor in one gulp. His eyes shimmered, his tone utterly calm as he merely smiled at me. Therefore, my rescue demands compensation. The next day, Gu Lanting ordered his servants to summon me for a meeting. When the room full of soldiers saw me, they fell silent, exchanging bewildered glances. One bold soul asked, "What is the meaning of this, young master?" Gu Lanting didn't even lift his eyes, replying with a faint, ambiguous smile. Your bickering these past 2 days has given me a headache. Might as well bring her here for you. Since her fate is at stake, why not discuss it face to face? What do you say? The soldiers, who had been so fierce moments before, now flushed crimson. After all, trading a woman's life for peace in Jiangsu, if word got out, it would be nothing short of laughable. Seeing their hesitation, I spread the map on the desk and pointed to Jiangsu. The Jiangsu region is flat and crisscrossed by waterways. If Xie Zhao intends to reclaim the southern lands, he must first conquer Jiangsu. The people of Jiangsu are straightforward. Even their arguments lack complexity. Someone slammed a knife onto the desk, the force making my hand go numb. He stiffened his neck and declared, "If we hand you over, Xie Zhao will naturally have no reason to attack Jiangsu." I lifted my eyes and stared at him for a moment until he shifted his gaze, looking slightly uneasy. Only then did I speak. Rumors abound that I am the young lady betrothed to your third young master since childhood. I know no Xie Zhao, nor do I know any Lady Xie. Today, Xie Zhao uses me as leverage to burn Jiangsu's warships. Tomorrow, he could point to your wife and daughters, claiming they're abducted Central Plains civilians. His eyes blazed crimson with fury. How dare he? I met his gaze, enunciating each word. He dares. None present could refute this. Everyone knew Xie Zhao's so-called search for his missing wife was merely a pretext for attacking Jiangsu. Only when the man's ragged breathing steadied did I push the map back toward them. Xie Zhao is no master of water warfare. Even his troops are predominant NTLY cavalry, though Jiangsu sees little conflict. Its very existence depends on the water. Water is Jiangsu's lifeblood. My expression remained unreadable as I declared, "A wedding feast, that is where we kill him." The bridal gown lay spread before me, its golden-threaded twin lotus blossoms vividly lifelike. After that day, the Gu residence glowed with bright lights. Crimson lanterns hanging high. All knew the Gu family of Jiangzhou was preparing for a marriage alliance. Wedding invitations were sent to every county under heaven. Even Xie Zhao accepted the summons to witness the ceremony. For him, it was an opportunity. For me, it was the same. Using myself as bait, I wove a feast of treachery. At first, I did not wish to involve the people of Jiangzhou, but Gu Lanting was right with or without me. Jiangzhou could not escape this war. Rather than passively trapping myself beside Xie Zhao, I chose to actively bind my fate to that of Jiangzhou. The banquet was held aboard a river pavilion. My veil completely obscured my vision. As we approached the altar, someone arrived late. The strains of silk and bamboo instruments masked the tension beneath the banquet table. I heard Xie Zhao take his seat. He touched not a drop of wine, merely smiling as he said, "I arrived late. I hope the third young master will not hold it against me." Gu Lanting did not reply. Xie Zhao showed no anger. He cut straight to the point. "Your wife bears a striking resemblance to my wife, who has been missing for months. Might I lift the veil to see?" The attendant beside him drew his sword with hands behind his back. The next instant, a heavy splash echoed from the water. Xie Zhao didn't even bother with pretense. Assassins lurking in the pleasure boat sprang into action at the sound. The boat shook violently. I tore off my veil and grabbed the wooden window frame, struggling to steady myself, when someone firmly grasped my arm. "Why so nervous?" Gu Lanting squeezed my sweat-dampened palm. His tone lax. "They'll send you to the capital for a little fun. It's hardly a difficult task." The water was indeed Gu territory, even though Xie Zhao had come prepared. He was still constrained by the river's domain. Clutching his wounded arm, he pushed past Gu Lanting, who was locked in combat with him. Wherever he passed, a trail of blood was left behind. He seized my wrist and said, "Leave with me." He dragged me toward the bow with one hand. Xie's troops were already waiting ashore nearby. My eyes lowered. I calmly drew a blade from my sleeve. He seemed to sense it, lifting his arm and turning sideways, dodging the strike to his back. Blood gushed like a fountain. My already injured arm now lost all strength. Xie Zhao's face turned deathly pale. In the look he shot me, I saw disbelief, fleeting regret, and anguish. He gave a bitter smile and said, "Qin, you truly hate me." Hate. Could this even be called hate? I merely returned to him what he had done to me. I wiped the spattered blood from my cheek with the back of my hand and curved my lips into a smile for him. "You've mistaken me for someone else." Seeing Gu Lanting closing in, Xie Zhao hesitated no longer. He leapt straight into the river, and crimson spread instantly across the water. Members of the Xie clan plunged into the water to retrieve their lord. I drew the longbow hanging on the ship's side and released an arrow. It vanished beneath the surface. Yet fresh crimson continued to stain the river. Moments later, someone dragged Xie Zhao from the water. Standing far away at the bow, I couldn't discern his expression, only glimpsing a broken arrow still lodged in his shoulder blade. A member of Xie's entourage picked up a quenched arrow, seemingly intending to fire it at the barge. But Xie Zhao, choking on his cough, stopped him. Gu Lanting stood beside me, watching all this from afar. He sighed with regret. What a pity! The barge had been coated overnight with fire-retardant dye. I didn't know why Xie Zhao hadn't set it ablaze. Perhaps guilt still held him back from harming me, or perhaps had already seen that burning the ship would be futile. But none of that mattered to me. I withdrew my gaze, only to find Gu Lanting's eyes already fixed on me, the faint light illuminating his raven-black temples and brows. Even when our eyes met, he didn't flinch, meeting my gaze with open composure. I couldn't help but recall those late nights when Head caught me practicing archery in secret. Back then, Head covered my fingertips from behind, and the shoulder where our skin touched seemed to echo the tremors of his own heartbeat. Some grudges must be avenged personally, but there's no need to rush. Since falling from the cliff, my shoulder injury had never fully healed. I hoped to practice in secret, aiming to one day end Xie Zhao's life with a single arrow. Little did I know Gu Lanting had noticed. The bowstring hummed. My fingertips trembled. In that moment, I recalled the burning heat of his palm as he applied medicine that night. So this time, I was the one who looked away first. Nothing to regret. I lowered my eyelids, fingers curling slightly, as if trying to conceal the tremor in my fingertips. I murmured. The arrow pierced his shoulder blade, combined with his previous arm injury. That hand is utterly useless now. The Jiangsu soldiers held a victory banquet. Their hostility toward me had already faded during the open discussion days ago. Yet now they seemed awkwardly embarrassed. I, however, felt no relief. Xie Zhao was not dead. After this battle, the Xie and Gu clans would be utterly at odds. Xie Zhao possessed troops, grain, and an unending supply of weapons. Though Jiangsu could wage war, its people were unaccustomed to conflict. If we merely clung to this corner, we would eventually suffer like the other provinces in this age of chaos, endless casualties and fields littered with the starved. This was no sustainable path. Gu Lanting pointed to Yanshi, north of Jiangsu on the map, and declared, "Attack here," and swiftly, marching north to battle. All the way to the capital, this was the fastest, most direct route. Xie Zhao would surely reinforce patrols near Jiangsu. I had expected capturing Yanshi to be an extremely perilous and arduous battle. Yet on that day, when Gu's forces arrived at the city gates, the governor of Yanshi threw open the city gates. Standing alone before the gate, he bowed deeply to me. "Lady Xie, it has been a long time." I scarcely remembered him, only guessing we might have shared some connection in the past. I replied, "You mistake me. I am no Lady Xie. My surname is Qin." He paused, then readily smiled. "Young lady," he explained that Yanshi had once been ravaged by war. After Xie Zhao recaptured the lost territories, his wife remained on this barren land. Later, as the area was rebuilt, every inch of its crops and houses became inextricably linked to that lady. He said the wars never ceased, and he did not wish to see Yanshi return to its former desolate, impoverished state. He was willing to represent the people of Yanshi in pledging allegiance to the Jiangsu. As Jiangsuo's troops entered the city, children peered timidly from behind their elders, their eyes brimming with cautious curiosity. Though Yanshi had lost its former glory, its fields and dwellings now stood in orderly rows. Farmers tilled the soil, builders erected houses, and even young children ran about thoughtfully, offering water and wiping sweat from laborers' brows. The Jiangsu soldiers rested here for a day. Before departing, the prefect called me aside. He said Yanshi had never feared battle. He himself had died once, clawing back a broken life from the brink of death. Even if Jiangsu attacked by force, he would never yield. Yet, both he and the people of Yanshi chose to place their faith in the woman who had once saved their land. His gaze met mine, eyes weathered by hardship, yet bright with conviction. He smiled and said, "May your journey be smooth, and may you extinguish the flames of war across the land." I did not turn back, only murmured softly, "She will." Jiangsu captured 3 Central Plains cities in succession, then advanced like a tidal wave, marching straight toward the capital. No one anticipated that Xie Zhao, whose victory seemed assured, would suffer a crushing defeat at Jiangsuo's hands. Not only was one of his arms crippled, but he lost several cities in rapid succession. The title Lord of the Vultures now rang like a harsh mockery. Some governors, like the one of Yanshi, willingly surrendered their cities. Those who refused or even attempted to establish rival regimes were ruthlessly conquered by Gu Lanting. Rumors about Xie Zhao resurfaced with renewed fervor. Some called him ruthless and merciless, while others claimed he had lost the people's trust. In the pursuit of power, he had even cast aside his wife of humble origins who had stood by him through thick and thin. When the Jiangsu forces entered the capital, morale collapsed, and people fled in all directions. The scattered remnants of the Song army and the Xie clan's loyalists were utterly subdued. They called us rebels. But now the tide of the realm has turned, and the will of the people is clear. Whether those who stormed the capital were rebels or the purple star of the chaotic age, history is no longer written by them. I saw Xie Zhao again. Since losing his arm that day, he had seldom appeared on the front lines. His robes remained immaculate as he watched calmly while Jiangsu soldiers closed in. A woman trembled behind him, her hair pinned with a golden hairpin, her features noble. They say this is Xie Zhao's childhood sweetheart. Song Yin, once his unrequited love. After his wife fell to her death, he finally made room for his childhood sweetheart. Everything should have unfolded as he wished. Yet for reasons unknown, he had delayed remarrying. I pushed 2 wine cups toward them. The rippling surface reflected their disheveled faces. Poison in the left cup, water in the right. Only one may live. I smiled serenely at Xie Zhao. You choose. Song Yin looked at Xie Zhao with desperate hope, tugging at his robe and whispering through sobs. I can't die. Xie Zhao, you loved me most, didn't you? And my father and brothers, you promised them you'd protect me. Xie Zhao remained unmoved, his gaze fixed solely on me. I heard him whisper, Qin, that day on the cliff. I never imagined you would jump. He abruptly closed his eyes. Before your father and brothers passed, they left you an antidote pill. In that critical moment, you still had that pill to save your life. I needed the Song family's military power, but I also wanted you alive. I just never imagined you would jump. I listened quietly, not even the curve of my lips shifting. I only asked him, 2 cups of wine, haven't you chosen yet? Song Yin seemed to break completely. She lunged forward, snatched the cup of plain water on the right, and gulped it down in one go. Water stains and tear streaks smudged her makeup. She tossed the cup aside and shouted, I chose already. Wiping the tears from her eyes, she cried out harshly at Xie Zhao. Don't blame me, betrayed me first. After she fell from the cliff, you could have married me. My father and brothers fought alongside you to quell the rebellion. Yet you couldn't even be bothered to marry me. You claimed I was only your sister. Yet you never stopped others from calling me Madame Xie. It was you wronged me first. You betrayed me first. Watching these lovers turn against each other, my heart remained utterly still. On our journey north, I heard many tales about Lady Xie. In the end, she and her son-in-law's childhood sweetheart were both poisoned. Yet she became the sacrificial pawn. I asked Xie Zhao patiently. You said I possessed an antidote pill, but have you ever considered that antidote pill was already used on you? Xie Zhao was unexpectedly poisoned during a rebellion suppression. All predicted he wouldn't survive 3 days. Yet miraculously, his fever broke and he awoke the very next day. The world hailed it as the emperor's divine aura, cementing his reputation as a formidable ruler. My life was saved by Gu Lanting. Therefore, that antidote pill from long ago must have been used on someone else. Xie Zhao seemed to recall something. His face instantly drained of color. His lips trembled. Yet no sound emerged. It wasn't that he couldn't foresee this outcome. Power and influence simply mattered more to him. Everything else was expendable. I merely smiled. Before him and Song Yin, I poured the other cup of wine onto the ground. Rest assured, both cups contain nothing but plain water. To die so easily is merely a release for you both. I brushed dust from my skirt and curved my lips into a smile for Xie Zhao. Besides, you've mistaken me for someone else. After falling from the cliff, I lost all memory of my past. Your regret, your self-proclaimed devotion, I couldn't care less. After marrying Gu Lanting, some initially called me the third Lady Gu. But later, no one ever used that title again. All under heaven knew Gu Lanting had a wife he trusted implicitly. He never kept her from military affairs, and even the generals held her in deep respect. It wasn't because of beauty, nor because of deep affection. I didn't need his surname. I was simply myself. The one who holds grudges is me. The one who laughs it off is also me. Just an ordinary woman in turbulent times. Nothing more. That night upon returning to Jiangsu, I had a very long dream. I dreamed of being born crying from my mother's womb. Of my father later saving a nobleman of Jiangsu. The nobleman declared he would betroth his third son to me, though I overheard the adults arranging the marriage. I never gave it a thought. Then I turned and saw a young gentleman standing beneath the gardenia tree, blushing as he gazed at me. During my 3-day stay at the Gu residence, he brought me delicious candied sugar and beautiful jewelry. The maids giggled behind covered hands, whispering that the third young master had finally awakened to love. The young man blushed crimson with embarrassment, then stormed off, chasing them all away. Before I left, he asked, "Will you return to Jiangsu?" I thought for a moment and replied, "I will." I promised him I'd bring him delicious gardenia sugar when I came back. The young master asked what gardenia candy tasted like. I held a gardenia to his lips and declared with absolute certainty, "This is the taste. If you ever crave candy, just taste a gardenia petal. It'll return soon." Later, after 5 years, 10 years passed, and I soon forgot the youth. I saw myself married, living an unhappy life that cost my father and brother their lives. In the end, I plunged from a high cliff, filled with resentment. After all the twists and turns, we met again. When I awoke, daylight streamed in, sunlight filtered through the window lattice, warming my body. Yet someone stood before me, shielding my eyes from the glare. I asked Gu Lanting, "Surviving that fall was sheer luck. But how did you cure the poison that seeped into my very bones?" The Gu family had no medical heritage. They weren't healers by trade. Gu Lanting made no attempt to hide it. He slit his wrist, and within moments, worms began to crawl beneath his skin. In my youth, wandering the lands, I acquired a type of poisonous insect. Those infected share their lifespan with the caster. Some foolishly sought immortality through it. He gazed at me, his features more vividly beautiful than usual. "They'll give you half of my lifespan." I finally understood why. Upon waking then, my throat had tasted of blood. Coming to my senses, I tentatively asked him, "If you had 100 years to live, you could still have 30 more. But if you only have 50, you might die suddenly without warning. Are you truly without regret?" Gu Lanting tilted his head casually, his expression languid as he countered, "What is there to regret?" Outside the window, gardenias bloomed in full splendor, leaning against the frame. I reached out and plucked one. I popped a petal into my mouth. A faint bitterness mingled with the floral scent, and I tasted the sweet dew. Then the capital fell. Xie Zhao and Song Yin were thrown into prison. Their carts paraded before the people. Song Yin cursed all night, yet news spread the next day that both had taken their own lives. The Gu clan had no desire to seize the throne, and I lacked the energy to navigate the tangled interests of the aristocratic families. I decided to return to Jiangsu and settle here permanently. I turned back, my voice naturally trailing off as I asked Gu Lanting softly, "Gardenia Candido, you still want some?" His gaze suddenly halted, his voice thick and hoarse. "So you finally remembered you still owe me a favor?" "Yes." I curved my eyes, offering the gardenia blossom to his lips. His eyes seemed to hold shards of light, his own eyes bending in pleasure. He bit down on my fingertip along with the flower, his voice muffled. He looked away and said, trying to fool me with gardenias again, "Where's my candy?" I couldn't help but laugh. "So, I'm here to repay the debt." The end.